Good day, Algebra 2. First of all, let me make this an apology really quick that yesterday's video that's related to this topic unfortunately had the background timer uh, playing throughout the whole time, so it was being kind of annoying. I didn't realize it because I don't hear it on my screen that I'm recording on. However, it was on the computer monitor in a background noise, so apparently it came out in my video. So hopefully this video is going to be quieter and just as easy as yesterday's to actually satisfy to complete. Today we're going to be graphing two inequalities, or what we call a system of inequalities on the same grid. And we're going to be using the same methodology we used yesterday. So without further hesitation, let's just jump right into it. So the first equation, or first inequality, excuse me, I'm going to work on is this one over here for number 1. Now we have y less than negative 1/2 x minus 3. The less than symbol tells me that's going to be a dotted line that I'm going to create, and it's going to be shaded below because less than implies things that are low or lower. So to start, I'm going to have my y-intercept at negative 3. So I'll go to negative 3 and create a point. And I'll follow the slope negative 1/2, which means down 1 over 2. Down 1 over 2. And I'll repeat that process to fill out every point in my grid that I can get to fit on this particular grid. I know that I'm going to connect these dots with a dashed or dotted broken line. So I'll just throw some hyphens in between here. You can throw more dots if you want. However, the big idea is do not make this line solid because the solutions or the points on this line are not solutions. And then I'm going to go ahead and shade below this line, which means I get really close to the line, but I don't touch it. So anything that approaches or is below this line will make this first inequality, this reddish maroonish one that I'm graphing, it'll make it true. So any xy coordinate will make this equation true. Now let me switch up the color. Let's go to a different shade of red actually. Let's go ahead and pick this one. Here we go. And I'm going to work on this second inequality now. The greater than or equal to symbol means I'm going to have a solid line. Because whenever you have the half equal sign, that means you're going to have a solid line. I'm going to be shading above because the word or the phrase greater than is in that symbol. I will begin at negative 3 again on the y-intercept, on the y-axis, excuse me. This is my intercept. I will follow the slope 2/3. That's up 2 over 3, up 2 over 3, up 2 over 3. And I can follow it in reverse to get the points that came before it. I know it's a solid line, so I'll connect these points with a solid line, throwing my arrow tips on each end. And then I will be shading above this line. So everything from the line on is a solution. So the line itself has answers and everything above it has answers. So here's how it breaks down. If it's just in the green shaded zone, like these lines are up here, then these points, as well as the ones on the green line, make this statement true. If it's just in the red points, in the red zone, like I have on the bottom, then those points make this equation true. But this whole area right here, and I'll kind of outline it a little bit. This whole area that has the double shading, this entire area, and this entire zone over here, all these points make both of these statements true. So these are where all your solutions lie, in this zone. Not including the dashed line, but the solid lines and all this stuff, this is all where your solutions are. I won't make the other future graphs as ugly and messy with the black line, but I just want to give you an idea of what the crisscross stuff means. Let me erase some of these black lines because they're a little annoying. I don't like them that much. There we go. So I'll kind of leave it at that. There we go. So now let's go ahead and work on number 2. Let me pick 2 different colors to use. I'll go ahead and start with that one. So for number 2, I'll begin with this inequality. The greater than means that I'm going to have a dotted line and I'll be shading above. I'll begin at negative 2 on the y-axis. And I'll follow this slope of positive 3/2, up 3 over 2, up 3 over 2, up 3 over 2, and rinse and repeat, and I'll get the points that came before it. Left 2, down 3, left 2, down 3, and so on and so forth. I'm going to connect them with a dotted line, so I'll fill in little hyphens or broken pieces of line in between, throwing on some arrow tips. And then I'm going to be shading above, so I will shade above this line, but I will not make contact with the line, because the dashed line does not have any answers that will work for me. It just acts like a border. Now let's go ahead and graph the second inequality, which is this one right here. This one, less than, means I'm going to have a dotted line, and I will be shading below my line. I'll begin my line at positive 2, on the y-axis, and I'll be following the slope of negative 3/4. That means going down 3 over 4, down 3 over 4, and then if I can get more points in there, I can. Back 4 up 3, back 4 up 3. It's going to be a dotted line also, so I'll connect these red points with a broken line, throwing arrow tips at the end. Then I'll be shading below the red line, but also once again not touching the red line because broken lines do not count as answers. So wherever this red and purple lines crisscross, I get these little squares, that's where all my solutions are, in that zone. So basically, all in this area, I'll kind of throw my cursor in this area where all the crisscross is happening. These are all solutions that make both of these inequalities, this one and this one, true. Our third example, more of the same. If at this point you kind of have the general idea, by all means go ahead and get started and then just check to make sure that our graphs match. Otherwise, I'll continue. The less than or equal to symbol means I'm going to have a solid line, and less than means I'm shading below. I'll begin at positive 2 on the y-axis, and I'm going to follow the slope of 2 over 1. That means up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. And I can follow it in reverse to get the points that came before it as well, which is what I'm doing now. I already discussed that this is going to be a solid line, so I'll connect these points with a solid line indeed, adding arrow tips to both ends. I will be shading everything below the line, so from the line on down, everything in this zone, including the line and everything below it, is a solution that makes the first inequality that I did in black true. This only answers the first inequality so far. The second inequality now, I'll go ahead and do that with this color, has a greater than symbol. That means it's going to be a dotted line because there's no equal sign. And since it's greater than, I will be shading above. I'll begin at positive 6 on the y-axis, and I'll be following a slope of negative 2 over 1. That means down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. I'll follow this pattern once again, just like I did all the previous ones to get as many points as I can. And then I know it's going to be a dotted line, so I will just fill in between these red dots that I made with little half broken pieces of hyphens or whatever. And then I'll be shading above my line, so everything up here. So wherever my red and black crisscross, that's where I will have answers to both of these inequality expressions or inequalities at the top. So both of these, this one and this one, are answered where the red and black crisscross, and only in that zone. All right, so there's our third example. And our final example now, number 4, y is greater than negative 2/3 x minus 2. So for that one, let's go ahead and break it down. The greater than symbol means it's going to be dotted, and I'll be shading above. I'll begin at negative 2 on the y-axis, plot a point. I will follow this slope, negative 2/3, down 2 over 3, down 2 over 3, down 2 over 3, and I'll follow it in reverse to get the points that came before it. I know it's dotted, so I'll just fill in these little gaps with some broken lines. And I'm shading above it. So above the line, but not touching the line, because the line itself contains no answers that will be of any use to me. So everything in this blue zone that I'm shading makes this first equation true. My second equation now, or excuse me, inequality to be precise, is y less than 4/3 x plus 2. The less than symbol means it's going to also be dotted because there's no equal sign, or there's no half equal sign. And the less than means I'll be shading below. I'll begin right here at positive 2 on the y-axis. And then I'll follow the slope 4/3, which means up 4 over 3, up 4 over 3. And I can follow it in reverse to get the points that came before it. So back 3, down 4. It is going to be a dotted line, so I'll fill in these gaps with some broken pieces of line. Show that this line itself does not have any answers. And I'll be shading below, so I'll get close to the line, but I won't actually touch it. And wherever my yellow and blue start to crisscross is where I will have answers. Remember, jagged or broken lines do not count as answers. So the blue or yellow jagged line will not have any answers, but the stuff that crisscrosses with the blue and yellow will have your answers. So that's how you graph linear inequalities. However, with this particular assignment, we discovered that there's an IXL assignment, which I'll pull up for you guys right now. And we're going to discuss this really quick on how to solve it. So let me go ahead and find algebra 2's. Here it is. So you're going to end up with some basic inequalities to start graphing. And they're going to start off with just one variable and one number like we see here. So for this first example, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down because I can use the tools on the bottom. On the bottom of this grid, you see I have a blue and a purple rectangle. Blue and purple. I'll start with the blue. The blue line is going to represent x is less than or equal to 2. That means I go to positive 2 on the x-axis and make my first point. Oops, right there. Now I make another point anywhere on this 2 line. So I can go either above or below this blue dot. I'll just go above, who cares? So there's my line. This is x equals 2. According to this inequality, since it says less than or equal to, I need to have a solid line, which I have here. Now, I won't worry about shading yet until I graph my second line, the purple one right here. This one says go to negative, it's x greater than or equal to negative 8. That means I go to negative 8 on the x-axis and I plot a point. Now I plot another point somewhere that lines up with this negative 8, and I'll just go right there. The inequality says greater than or equal to, which means I have a solid line. So now I want to shade in the answer zone. Which area of this graph has all the numbers that are smaller or less than 2 for the blue graph and greater than or equal to negative 8 on the purple graph? Well, that would be this zone here. If I go left of my blue line, that's things that are smaller than or equal to 2. If I go right of my purple line, those are numbers that are bigger than or equal to negative 8. So that entire zone is where all my answers are. And if I click submit, it should be verified for me. There we go. Now here, after you do a couple of x's, might give you some y's. So the y's behave the same way. This has a mixture of what we did today in our notes and the newer or the easier stuff. My first inequality that I'm going to graph with apparently a purple line is going to be y greater than or equal to negative 4. So I go to negative 4 on the y-axis and plot a point. This line is going to go sideways, so I pick any point on the side of purple and make a line. Greater than or equal to means it's going to be a solid line, and this line is indeed already solid. Now for my orange line, I'm going to do what I did in my notes. I'm going to begin at the y-intercept of negative 4, and then I'm going to follow the slope of 3 over 1. That means up 3 over 1, and there's my line. The inequality is greater than or equal to, so that means it's going to be a solid line, and now I need a shade. I need a shade above the orange line, which is what the greater than means, but I need a shade also above the purple line. So the only zone that's above the orange and above the purple is this zone right there. That is above the purple and above the orange, like the inequalities tell me. And my lines are both solid, so this should work if I did it right. Yes. And then I'll do one more with you guys. So here I have, actually I want to go back because you know how to do the ones that are basic lines. Let me go back to the ones that are just double x's or y's. Let's see. This is x's. I want a y equation, but you know what? I'll just go ahead and stop there. I'm going to let you guys figure out the rest from here. If you have any questions, by all means, feel free to ask me or your teacher. And make sure you do a minimum of 10 questions, and you get a SMART score of at least 80. Once you achieve an 80 on your SMART score and you have at least 10 questions done, I will automatically give you a 100 for this assignment. All right, so good luck with this, guys. Ask questions if you need help, and I'll see you guys on the next lesson.